Hi guys, happy Pick Strawberries Day. I'm Samuel Moser and welcome to Moser Meadows Records. Today we're going to talk about my song, Killed by a Clock. I actually have a clockmaker in the studio with me today.
Is this the studio? Did not know that. This is my house.
This is my sister Talitha.
I didn't know it was Pick Strawberry Day.
Yeah, it's Pick Strawberries Day. Cheers.
These are good strawberries.
Tell me a little bit about what it is you do as a clockmaker.
So I own a clock store in Tulsa and we restore all kinds of clocks, but we especially restore antique clocks. That's what we specialize in. A clockmaker, it's also called an horologist, and horology is the study of time and timekeeping devices. That's what I'm passionate about. Really anything mechanical. I love mechanical stuff.
So how did you first become interested in working with clocks?
Good question. Just as far back as I can remember. I can remember when I was really little watching The Great Mouse Detective, which is a Disney movie. It's very steampunk. Steampunk culture is kind of like Tesla, inventions era. What would happen if technology didn't advance to the point where it is, if we just focused on steam power? What would happen if our world was all mechanical and steam powered? Jules Verne is classified as science fiction and it's steampunk. H.G. Wells, some of Sherlock Holmes is even, they were making things up, they were inventing things. Some of it might even work. It's totally viable.
Still in question.
The Hindenburg was a disaster and everybody was like, okay, now we're scared of airships, and oh look, airplanes are more available. But the idea that airships could still be a thing, it would be amazing, and I want my own airship. You and I are gonna make one.
We're gonna make one.
Obviously.
We'll
take tea on the deck. I'll be the captain, you can be my lieutenant.
Except I'm always going to spill it on my lap. Your story about clocks goes kind of the same way as my story about cartooning, because before you even knew what it was you liked, you knew that you liked it. I would watch a movie, a cartoon with clocks in it, and I would be very fascinated. Definitely with the clocks, not in the same way that you are. I would be focused on the cartoon style, the drawings, and even before I knew how that worked, I liked how it looked. As far back as I can remember.
Probably even further back.
It's like when you're born, there's often something about you that was just always there. You make a hammer, and before it's used as a hammer, it already is a hammer. And I'm not saying that we're like tools. We're all just gifted in different ways. Sometimes it takes a bit of our life to find out what we're gifted with. There were certain school subjects that when they came up in high school, I was like, wait, there's a whole subject for that? Like philosophy? And I didn't even know what that was.
I love asking questions, and this is a school subject. Awesome.
When it came to the music of Killed by a Clock, this was clock themed, so I have ticking noises in the background. What did you especially like about the music?
I don't really know what the style is. It's intentionally stressful, so you kind of get this urgency. I think it did what it was supposed to, where you're watching it and it's kind of beating against you, and there's this stress. Every note of the music is with your voice. It's very exact and in a way kind of mathematical, which clocks are. They're predictable. If you regulate them right, they're mathematically perfect. After the first stressful moment of the song, then it's like, oh yeah, I get how this goes. I know when to expect music in your voice, but then you have dissonance. You have the noise and the ticking, and you're not sure when he's gonna start singing again, and you kind of go, wait, no, I'm stressed out, definitely. And then it goes back to singing again. You're like, no, I'm not stressed out.
I wouldn't really know how to describe it. I like to work with genres of music that I can't place or name. Certain things will pop out to me, and I'm gonna say, I don't think that's been used much. I'm gonna lean further in there and come up with something original. So I'm glad that it did that. I follow some Facebook groups that like looking at steampunk inventions and stuff that are again using just like steam power. And some things I've heard them say is, does anybody know a genre of music that you'd call steampunk music? No. How about I make some?
Hey.
Yeah,
oh my
music
gosh.
that makes clock noises, but in a song way. I also liked how you said it's very mathematical. Like working with clocks, neither you or I were actually very good with math growing up.
Nah, and I wanted to love. I always said I didn't hate math, but math hated me. It was really the same with history and science. I could remember the facts, and I remember them every day actually. I think about them all the time. But when it came to equations or remembering a date, that was a hard one. I just tried to remember a number and it didn't stick.
It's fun to be like in a place now in my life where I'm looking back and seeing what was hard for me and helping make it easier for other people. working with Master of Memory and doing mnemonics like I've shown you in the drawing videos. Pictures are so much more memorable than just like numbers. I mean, there'll be some people who have an easy time remembering numbers, but I wouldn't be one of them.
It makes sense that we would need to convert numbers to pictures.
There are different aspects to any job, even if it's your favorite thing in the world, and you even learn to like the parts that you never thought you'd like enjoying the math and stuff. You can reach a point where you're not really thinking about how hard that's been for you in the past, how different it is for you, but then you come to realize, I'm really stressed out and I don't know why. And that happened to me while I was making the music video. I'm really stressed out. Why am I doing this? I want to go do something else. And at some point struck me as I was working on it that the song was singing to me what I was feeling. It was telling me, my fear is growing, and it comes with knowing it was my favorite. And I thought, whoa, what did I just do? I need to learn a lesson from myself here. I would long for the days when I could have more opportunities to draw, and I'm making money with pictures now. So there comes a point with that when it becomes stressful. Working on this music video, I started to get that feeling of being overwhelmed. I didn't have words for it. I wasn't quite sure I even had a clear picture.
But there had to be a clock, and it had to try to kill.
I wanted to do justice to music and to people's expectations. You know how it is if you're like driving in intense traffic all day and then you're starting to fall asleep and you have these subconscious like tossing and you think that a car is going to hit you? Sometimes I'll get that even with things that I enjoy that aren't usually stressful for me. If I'm hanging out with people in the middle of working on a project and I've designated like a time that I'm going to work on it, I could still be just focused on it. Is it ever that way for you at the clock shop when you visit us?
Not the clocks. No, it's problem solving, keeping a business going, especially when you have one disaster after another. Somebody leaves, somebody has surgery, and they're going to be out for 2 months. We only have 5 employees. Yeah, I'm always problem solving. We love what we're doing, we love it, but owning a business is stressful. And when you go from being, just like you, being an artist to being a business owner, then you have to think about my employees are depending on me so that they can pay their bills, and my customers are depending on me because I told them that the project would be ready at an estimated time, and I'm way overshooting that. I'm always problem solving. We made a rule that we do not talk about work at home. In fact, if we want to talk about work and we're at home, we have to go outside or we have to drive around the neighborhood or go somewhere. That's been a very helpful thing because we used to talk about work on the couch across from us, and we would come home and we'd sit on that couch to relax, and right away my mind would be busy with work. I didn't know why sometimes I would want to go hang out in my study. I thought I just love my study. No, it was because I felt peaceful in there. There's peace in there. But as soon as we sat in the living room, I was stressed out and I was thinking about work. So we are trying to purify the air in this room and change the whole vibe in here. And for the past almost month, we have not talked about work at home. In fact, this is the first time I've talked about work at home. This is the fun thing. This is fun. There was a time we were going to be meeting with an employee at a restaurant. My husband Travis, he said, "Tomorrow night, can we get dinner with so-and-so?" And I said, "No, we have something else tomorrow." And he said, "Oh yeah, that." But we didn't say even what it was. We've started saying, let's go on vacation when we leave the shop. We come home and we go on vacation every evening.
That's awesome. You know, I was wondering if that like jumped out to you when you were watching the music video, because at the very end, the owl steps out and closes the door and it's like peaceful outside.
Yeah.
Everything he loves is overwhelming him. I got some inspiration from a really dark poem. I mostly just read around Halloween at Talitha's house. Edgar Allan Poe. He has a short story called The Pit and the Pendulum, and it's about a prisoner. He's basically been sentenced a death sentence, and it's inside this room, but with this machine like the pendulum on a clock, but not used for what a pendulum should be used for because it's supposed to kill him. That inspired some of this, like, using a good thing like a clock to talk about something bad, you know? Because really in this world, I think any good thing can become bad if you become too obsessed with it. That's something that I think you and Travis have done a good job coming to terms with, as you talk about not sitting on the couch, changing your association, going on vacation every night. You're giving a really good example of ways to overcome an obsession. Mm-hmm. Keep it nice. As long as it's a job, it's gonna have things about it that are stressful. Like, ever since I started releasing a video every other week, I still love making videos. But then when I realized, this is stressing me out, and I'm gonna have to do it again 2 weeks from now. Well, it's because it's a job. And when I realized that, I'm like, okay, it is a hobby, but I should also draw pictures of other things. And I think the most important line in the song is, "My hobby hates me, my trade betrays me." It's like you tricked me. I thought that I liked this. Now I'm not liking it.
How could
you
you?
see a young version of the owl working on his clock, and then you see an older version of the owl having the clock working on him.
I felt it.
But it was actually, Talitha, you taught me about hobbies. So when I first heard the term hobby, I thought, what's that? Does that mean toy? And then somebody said, like, it just means something that you enjoy doing. I thought, oh, drawing, cartooning. And then one time I'm talking with Talitha about how I've been busy with cartoons and stuff. And she said, oh, cool. Have any hobbies lately? I'm like, I just told you, I've been drawing cartoons. Yeah. Well, it's a job now. Do you have any hobbies? I'm like, oh! And that's when I realized hobby does not mean the thing that takes over your life. Hobby is the thing you can always come back to that makes life good. I think a great example of this is gonna bring up Puzzle again. When I'm riding in the car with him, he plays the yellow car game where he'll point out a yellow car. I never used to like the color yellow on a car. I just thought it was so plain, like a page in a phone book.
Good point.
At that point, like, I noticed yellow cars are hard to find, but very easy to spot. They just really stand out when you see them. Now I live in a house in Midtown Tulsa, which is like the part of Tulsa that seems to have the most yellow cars.
Oh.
So the closer we get to my house, the easier the yellow car game gets. And I think of it like fireflies now, like things that you look for, little sparks of interest, the things in life that make life good. I would say that's what a hobby is. Finding something in life that tells you like everyday life doesn't have to be boring.
I think in America that when you become an adult, you easily become part of this great big machine and you forget all the things that made you excited when you were a kid. There are so many distractions and you're so worn out trying to keep up with just surviving. And by surviving, I mean paying bills, making bosses happy or keeping employees happy, and keeping customers happy, and making clocks work. You get so busy and you come home and you want to distract yourself so you don't think about the things that stress you out, which is a big problem because what you're doing is you're literally distracting yourself from living. You're pausing your whole life because your life is too stressful and you're losing the opportunity to live it. When I was 11, I read a book called Pollyanna, and I loved that book. And at one point, she's talking to her Aunt Polly, and I think she was giving her chores to do, and she was telling her about all the different things that she was going to be doing. And she said, but when am I going to live? And Aunt Polly said, child, what are you talking about? You're living right now. And Pollyanna said, no, I'm breathing, and I'm speaking, and I'm going to be working, but when am I going to live? I have to live. And she was trying to explain to her Aunt Polly, I need time in nature. I need time to be curious. I need time to figure things out and talk to people and make friends and figure out who I am. And her Aunt Polly's just like, I'm telling you how to live. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I remember that a lot, even as an adult. I don't want to come home and distract myself from things that stress me out. I don't want those things to have any power over me in my home or out with my friends. I have to fight it every day, but I'm not going to distract myself from living. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. And I'm going to have a good time, or I'm going to have a peaceful time at least. I'm not going to lose all of my time and realize that I didn't do what I wanted.
There's a book in the Bible, Ecclesiastes, that talks about all the different problems we run into in life and trying to understand them. And one theme is this one that you're talking about. Are we here to work on stuff? And why are we working on stuff? Like, people have jobs so they can make money, so they can live, so that they can have jobs, so they can have money, so that they can live. Something that is important is being with your family, having time to enjoy the people in your life, enjoying food when you have it, like the flavors, like that's there for a reason. And when you can't live that way, it's basically just like you're watching the time tick down and you're waiting to die.
Yeah, incredibly stuck and depressing, and I've definitely been stuck before.
That's just like not the right place to be.
Seeing the hands get stuck, that was like, yep, I've been there. I got older and time passed, but I was in the same spot. A year after I got stuck there, I was waiting for something to happen during that time period to the point where I was so numb, I didn't have any kind of emotions, and then I wondered what emotions felt like. Thank goodness it was only for about a year, but I remember when I started to be happy again, and it was so weird.
That's right where the light starts shining through.
Uh-huh.
It's when you're like, there's more to life than just being alive. There's living.
When you're just waiting and that's all you're focused on, then you stop and eventually you break. So I don't wait anymore. I try not to anyway. Even if I'm not necessarily enjoying my day, I want it to be meaningful in some way.
There are many different ways of describing death, of like when things stop, like when you reach the end of it. In Greek mythology, you got this picture of the fates holding the strands of yarn and they're gonna cut it, like right at the end of your life. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it talks about a golden bowl, I think representing life, or a heart, and a silver cord holding it up. And when the silver cord snaps, the golden bowl drops and it breaks. That's the end of life. Also, I realized a term that I could use from a clock shop is when the clock stops moving.
If the weight gets to the floor, there's no power anymore because the power in a weight-driven clock, gravity is pulling on these heavy weights, which are pulling on the gear trains, causing the gears to spin, and the verge is allowing the escape wheel to escape one tooth at a time, which is the ticking sound you hear.
What is that mysterious ticking noise?
So if the weight hits the floor, the spring completely expands, the clock can't tick anymore because it's out of power.
You can wind them back up. That's the thing. I thought multiple times that I've already had a midlife crisis, and I'm not even 30.
They're saying millennials are having crises in their 20s,
Ugh.
which I think is absolutely true because been there,
Yeah,
buddy.
but it's not the end of your life when you feel that way. There is a wind back up. And that's why I use the term the chains have dropped, because in a cuckoo clock, the weights that have the chains connected to them, like when they run down, you pull them back up. And so it seems like the end of the owl's life, but it's not. All he has to do is step outside and get a different point of view. There's a lot of nursery rhyme themes, like Rockabye Baby.
MacDonald had a farm.
And I don't know what this nursery rhyme is. Cock-a-doodle-doo, the train has lost its shoe. Oh dear, what shall I do?
Oh dear, what shall
Was that a nursery rhyme?
It was a mother.
Was it a Mother Goose?
It was a nursery rhyme.
The cock-a-doodle-doo, the train has lost its shoe one is really about stress. And what's so funny about it is the interjection is cock-a-doodle-doo.
It's like, wake up!
Attention. I used that one in the song as sort of a second chance also. It's a sound of panic, but it's also a sound like a rooster crowing and another sun rising. Tickety-tuck, the arms are stuck, so it's about to strike. The moment of my death is about to come. The rooster crows again, and then we have not another verse, but we do have a bridge, so kind of a reconsideration of everything. Old MacDonald Had a Farm, that one is just fun for building up and building up. Here's a thing, now here's two things, now here's three things. Can you go through them all? But the way that I hear Old MacDonald Had a Farm, this probably comes from a picture book that I have. All the sounds he's hearing are built up of, I had a dog, and then I had a dog and some pigs. Then I had all these animals, and then it's just a bunch of chaos. And so that's why I said Old MacDonald had a dream of farming years ago, but now we know he's overwhelmed it. But Hickory Dock, my little brother asked about it. Is there a mouse infestation at the clock shop? Or was that just for the music video?
Yeah, Hickory Dickory Dock. It's sort of a legend. I don't know if it's ever been proven, but the oldest clock's made of wood. I actually have a wooden clock. The gears are made of wood in my clock. It's about 200 years old, from the 1800s. And so you go back to the 1800s, 1700s, and further, and the gears were cut from wood. And animals are not going to eat brass. They're not going to chew on brass. But termites and mice, they will get into wood. And if you were very poor and you had a clock and it would quit running, you might not be able to afford the local clockmaker, but everybody would have kind of their own method of greasing their clock. And some people actually would use bacon grease. So the bacon grease would get into these wooden clocks, and then the mice would get into those clocks as well to try and get that bacon grease. So that's kind of the myth. I think it's true because I've read it in so many different books, but some people state that it's a fact. I've never seen an old clock that had rodent bites in it, but maybe it's further back than the 1800s, and most of the clocks that come in are from the 18 and 1900s. I'm going to have to see it with my own eyes before I believe it, but the idea of a mouse with a clock, it's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. Like, if you're going to have a clock, you've got to have a mouse. If I have these little tufted mice from the 20s and 30s, If I find them, I put them in my store. Or brass mice from the 30s with giant ears. People buy those like crazy because they want to put it on their clock. And sometimes they put it on the weight of their grandfather clock so the mouse rides up and down on the weight. People love having a little mouse with their clock. It's like a good luck thing.
Rather than the thing that's destroying the clock, it's the little repairman, like the little house elf or whatever, doing work on the clock. Which is how I always heard the Hickory Dickory
really?
Dock song.
Kind of
Clock.
like the Tale of Gloucester, like a noisy little dollhouse for the mice to live in. But you can imagine long ago if that was true, and then the clock starts striking. Can you imagine how loud that would be? Imagine if your clock started striking and you looked at it, a bunch of little mice were running out of it. That would be disturbing. It's really sweet to have a lucky mouse with your clock.
You know, you said mice are like the most associated with clocks. I think the second most associated with them for me would be owls.
Owls are associated with clocks when people think of the most told story every year, the Nutcracker. And there's this creepy mechanical owl on the top of their clock. And every hour, instead of a cuckoo or a chime or a music box, there's an owl going hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, and all the children are afraid of it. That's why people associate owls with clocks sometimes. But that's really the only story I know of that associates an owl with a clock, but everybody's heard it. I see the owl.
I see it too. You have a clock shaped like an owl. Our brother Puzzle was wondering when owls are going to take over the clock shop.
Hopefully soon. Actually, we are trying to become a dealer for a company that sells stuffed animal owls, because owls are awesome. So I think it's hilarious that he asked. I didn't even consider the fact that owls are the enemy of mice. Any day now, I hope that the movie The Birds doesn't ever happen. But if I die by pecking of an owl, that wouldn't be so bad, I guess.
Oh.
Because owls are kind of awesome.
Like
No, I don't want to die that way. I changed my mind.
No. I always associate owls with like wisdom. Their big eyes, and like you think of the jeweler's loop that orologists use. I think it's nice to see a story about an owl and a mouse working together in a clock shop.
Aw, I like it too. I love all the mechanical toys, and he has a little pet mechanical mouse.
Nutcracker was like one other story I thought of as one that we grew up thinking, I like what's in this, but I don't know why. The mechanical toys.
There's like
I'm talking like this
so
old...
many automatons, just like grandfather Dosselmeyer makes these wonderful automatons, and he winds them up and they dance. And the clockmakers did make dolls to dance before kings, and some of them still exist, but most of them have been lost. People didn't know how to repair them, and they rusted away, or they were in museums that caught fire, or whatever. It's very, very sad.
Time to make them again, and an airship that we can fly in. I think that the ticking of clocks is a bit therapeutic as well, wouldn't you say?
If
Something
rain
really
is therapeutic, why wouldn't ticking be? I love thunderstorms. I love rain. They wake you up because they're loud. Then you get used to it and you fall back asleep, and it's calming and beautiful. And what happens when the thunder and rain stop and it's too quiet? You wake up and something's wrong.
Yeah.
That's how I am with my clocks. The ticking is soothing. I don't even hear it, but if it stops, then something's wrong.
If it stops, then you hear it.
The clock didn't strike. I definitely heard it not strike.
I come in the house and I feel like something's wrong. Did I set the alarm? Is there a stranger in the house? Oh, I didn't wind my clocks on Saturday. They've all stopped. And the thing is that just like with anything else, you get used to the sound of something and you start tuning it out. Within a week or two of having a clock, I started tuning it out. And even as I collected clocks, each new clock took me maybe a week before I stopped hearing it. It never bothered me. But at some point I would stop hearing it unless I wanted to. But I always knew what time it was, so I might be sitting in my study reading, and then I go, oh, it's 6:30, the clock struck 6. Except that's 8:30. So yeah, clocks are just they become a part of your life. They're predictable, and they're soothing, and they're beautiful, and they're practical too. They tell you what time it is, and if the electricity goes out, they still tell you what time it is.
Wow. So before we wrap up here, what would you say you and I have the most in common besides everything?
Our sense of humor, which is very off-the-wall, weird, and
It's mostly just really derpy.
we're derpy, yeah. Now this is going back to the sneakers and
Socks and sneakers.
Socks and sneakers feel like they were creepy clowns. Okay, creepy clowns are not technically steampunks, but I really like creepy clowns. Not like It clowns, that's a little overboard. I like the part in the second chorus, or maybe the third one, I think it was the second one. The clown just like, boo! It's like there, and it makes this crazy face, and it's the kind of thing that makes you go, ah, ah, ha, ha, ha.
And
It's
you
like
laugh.
scared but then laughing. Like, I don't want scared and then dead. I just want scared and then laughing. We both are, like, our professions involve what we've always loved. Both very artistic.
We both love philosophy and mythology.
Yeah. We have awesome hair. You have more awesome hair than I do. Well, I have more hair than you.
Well, this has been really fun. Subscribe to this channel for more videos and songs and interviews and commentaries.
And don't let your hobby kill you.
Enjoy your hobbies, and if your hobby becomes an obsession, find another hobby to do alongside it.
Eat your strawberries. They're good for you. Vitamin C.
And I will see you next time.